In the boundless realm of crypto, Cardano emerged not merely as a digital asset, but as a path to a decentralized future. And though the markets, as you know, have ebbed and flowed, and critics have voiced skepticism, a steadfast community, no doubt, has remained. And because Cardano wasn't built on whims, but on a vision of justice, accessibility, and equality to bank the unbanked, we are here. Against every challenge, Cardano holders have stood resilient, knowing that real value lies not in today's price, everybody, but in tomorrow's promise and history, which I really, really like when it comes to the charts, gives us every single hint of that. The tide will turn and our collective strength will shape the future of not just Cardano, but crypto. And Cardano isn't just a coin, it's a commitment. And against all odds, I think it'll stand. Those are my thoughts, everybody. I'm going to dig into the charts. I think I'm going to open my videos with just a minute of powerful inspiration of some sort, even if nerdy and even if overly dramatic. I'm just going to do it just to have some fun because these markets are crazy. Have you seen a daily chart on Cardano? 100 days sideways, basically. I didn't even realize this until today. No wonder that feeling of why is nothing happening? No wonder it feels like that feeling has been going on for a very long time. It's been 100 days, at least when it comes to Cardano. We're talking back here, this was June 11th, is like 27 cents, and here we are at 25 cents, and obviously there's been a little bit of an up and down, but very, very small range for ADA. So not going to dig into the charts in the short term, but I want to go over something in relation to the long term, the zoomed out, namely momentum. And these momentum oscillators that we have on the screen tell the story. Really, truly, Cardano is not out. And I alluded to historical data and what has happened in history. And we can apply that from a fundamental perspective. You know, I talked about something like Amazon not too long ago in a video, and fundamentally what they did and what they set out to do and how they basically surprised an entire industry, an entire world. Cardano, I think, is set up to do something similar, obviously in a completely different fashion, completely different technology, but the charts are a very powerful guide in terms of what we have from an ADA price perspective and how that plays into the cycles and where we are in the cycle. So to start, before we dig into each of these momentum oscillators, I think you're going to gain some insight. I have when I was just digging into this. Hit the subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Please hit the like button if you're out there, especially if you're an ADA holder still hanging in there with me. But to start here, I just want to point out, if we're looking at where we are, once again, we've been kind of looking at this red rectangle that I placed here to say this is kind of where we are. Well, to give you a really, really accurate idea, I guess we could say, end of October 2019. That's kind of where we are on the chart, right around here. Now, if we start applying the momentum of Cardano and what's happening, the similarities are incredible to me. And so you see headlines all over the place, not just with Cardano, but crypto in general, but with Cardano. I mean, headlines talking about what percentage of ADA holders are down and how ADA just has so much stacked up against it. And I just see something so completely different when I'm looking at Cardano. And one of the things that really kind of beefs up my confidence is not just this Cardano chart and the fact that we've seen Cardano go through this once before, right? We've been here before, but crypto has been here before, time and time again, with even more data than Cardano charts here. That really beefs up my confidence in the fact that Cardano is really not down and out. And if anything, for the very fact that they are solving, I think, the closest to solving the trilemma in crypto, security, decentralization, and scalability, they're the closest with their EUTXO model, just combining the best of Bitcoin, the best of Ethereum, and creating something special here. They're the closest to really achieving something, I think, awesome in crypto. And there's other projects. Cardano is set up, and I don't think it's down and out, right? I think there's a really solid future. And so as a value investor, that is compelling to me. And so here we are. I want to start one by one. I'm going to actually start with the MACD. And to give you some context in terms of the MACD, this is a trend oscillator. And obviously you can see it oscillating. We have a histogram here in green above the zero line. We have in red below the zero line. But the oscillator is basically using two moving averages, and those two moving averages create this blue line. That's called the MACD line. And that MACD line obviously really shows the trend of so far on this chart on Cardano, a bull market, bear market, right? But beside that, the other thing happening with this MACD is the visualization of the histogram, right? You can see this visualization in green. What that's just showing is when this MACD line crosses this signal line, we go in the green on the histogram. And so the reason I'm explaining all of that is very simple, is basically to illustrate and show the reflection of what is happening right here. We just talked about how grueling and how sideways things are. And this is a weekly chart, by the way. This is going back to June when it entered the red on the histogram. Very flat. Even the MACD line and the signal line are just, they're like right next to each other. And if we go back and we look, well, what's up with this? Kind of looking very similar back there. And if we look at this, it is exactly where we were at this part of the last cycle. Things were just, it was grueling for ADA price. And what I wanted to do is, I wanted to see, all right, when did it actually, let me expand this a little. I know it's very tough to kind of read, but when did it actually go red, that histogram? When did it go red? And then I looked, and you can just see 56 days before this red rectangle, the histogram went red. When did it go red this time around? 49 days. So it is that close by like 7 days. Cardano is that close in terms of just mimicking many things. And in this case, the MACD, obviously mimicking the time frame of where ADA is. So that's the MACD. That's number one. Now I want to go and I want to look at this one. This is the RSI, a slower moving momentum oscillator. It kind of illustrates overbought territories. That would be bull market highs, and oversold territories, bear market lows. And it does a really good job of doing this, especially on these zoomed out charts. Again, this is a weekly chart. And when I'm looking at this chart even, and we're looking, okay, well, where are we in comparison to the last cycle? And if you remember, let me kind of close this one, get a little bit better view here. But if you remember, we're around October 2019. Where was ADA? Well, it was kind of just bouncing off of this yellow line. And we're at a very similar area in terms of even RSI momentum on the RSI, right? One thing that has happened that I really want to just point out is the very fact that in this bear market, ADA has gone lower than ever in terms of being oversold. And you can see that happening in December 2022. Now, that's the actual oversold line when it comes to the RSI. That's the line right around 30. So falling below 30, it's like, hey, we're falling into oversold. A lot of times on momentum oscillators like this, with different cryptos, with whatever, something I think could historically reach oversold areas, but not fall into the technical rule of where oversold is, say 30, right? So point being, for example, I think back here in October 2019, ADA was oversold. Was it below the 30 line? No, but I think it was oversold. I think it was oversold here, December 2018. And if we go look at the chart, look, it was way oversold. It just wasn't below that rule, that 30 line rule. And so when we're getting to this area, and you can see it on the ADA charts where it's actually below the 30 line rule, it's clearly oversold. And you can see the big bounce ADA had off of that oversold. I bring that up not to say, hey, we're going to revisit that area again. I hope we don't. But if we do, I think ADA's been oversold already. But if it gets to that type of oversold once again in this bear market, I can't even tell you how undervalued ADA will be. And I think there would be an insane amount of opportunity if that happened. But putting that aside, where we are in this red box time frame wise compared to the last red box, such an interesting comparison because they are, once again, so similar in terms of the consolidation happening on the RSI. Now we have this one. And this one, we're actually going to really kind of dig into historical data of what has happened with this. And this is a quicker moving momentum oscillator. This is a stock RSI. So the RSI, which we were just looking at, basically takes, and this is the RSI once again, this purple line, we just talked about it, that takes data from the price. And the stock RSI is taking data from the RSI. So it's basically two levels away from price, right? It's not pulling data exactly from price, but it's pulling data from that RSI to give us a quicker moving look at what is happening. Now, every time ADA has done what actually we see it doing here, you see that blue line crossing above that red line. That's the K line crossing above the D line. That's a kind of a bullish signal. And I wanted to point out, historically, when this has happened, ADA has made a particular move. And I want to actually explain it, because I say particular because it is a particular move. In this case, and let me actually open up both of these charts. So in this case, let's go back and look at the move. So here we had the blue line crossing the red back here. What did ADA do? This isn't some crazy power move, but it was a move to the 20-week moving average. So we're going to cover some historical data, what it did before, and then I'm going to talk about the current move now. But that was that move to the 20-week moving average. And then here we had a pretty nice move. And this was the bounce out of that crazy oversold on the RSI. You can see the blue crossing above the red. A very nice move for ADA. Ultimately, if we actually check out price or percentage-wise, went on to see 80% to the upside. So that was a powerful move. And keep in mind, we're dissecting exactly what is happening currently, right now, this week. We're seeing what happened last time. So we go back here, and this was July 2022. Keep in mind, this is in the middle of a bear market now. What did ADA do? Pulled into the 20-week moving average. Pretty nice move, but failed at the 20-week moving average. You can even see some 200-week moving average resistance there too. A lot of confluent resistance. Same here. Right here, you can see ADA. And then one thing at this point I want to point out is we have the blue line crossing the red on this stock RSI, but we did not pull into the 20-week moving average. So the one thing I want to point out, because this is important for bullish confirmation over here in the current charts right here, the one thing that you see happen, we got the blue line crossing above the red, the K above the D, and it failed to break above this 20 line on the stock RSI and kind of just continued to put in another low before getting another cross, and then we finally revisited the 20. So that's important. And it's going to be important to see if we get this cross now, the blue above the red, what happens here around this 20 line? Will there be rejection even before getting to the 20-week moving average? Going back, now we're in a kind of bull territory. You can just see this line crossing above, entering the bull market basically. Now pre-halving, pre-Bitcoin halving, out of COVID, power monster move for ADA. And if we really start kind of getting into a similar time frame of where we are in this cycle, check it out. We have the line crossing right here, pulled into the 20-week moving average. Notice one more leg down before a very, very much more bullish cross of that blue line above the red for kind of a more power move. And the power move is breaking above the 20 and even briefly above that 50-week moving average. If COVID didn't happen, once again, I just would love to know what these charts would look like. But power move for Cardano coming out of that move. So we're kind of, in my view, somewhere in here. And so I will be very curious to see, especially, and the stock RSI, I don't talk about a lot. You have to just wait for these setups. And while they're happening, if it's consolidation, not really tracking it too much. But when we're getting moves like this on the quicker moving momentum oscillator, I think it's powerful and useful to use this, especially, mostly on the zoomed out on a weekly chart like this. So all of that to say that 29-30 cent area around the 20-week moving average is kind of a target to see for ADA as this cross is happening now, a move to that area. And so that's not that huge of a move price range wise. If we're looking at it, it's only around a 15% move. And then from there, ADA could very well get rejected. That would be a very similar thing to what happened back here in the middle of this red rectangle. This is where we are in this cycle, but reflected on the chart last cycle. We pulled into the 20, one more consolidation. It was actually another low, right, from where we were consolidating here. It wasn't breaking the bear market low, but it was another low, higher low, before actually making the move to the upside. So there could be a scenario for ADA where maybe it's pulling into the 20-week moving average, right? We're getting this nice stock RSI crossing above. pulling into 20-week, failure, right? So this is coming up, failure, one more low, boom. And then we're actually putting in some nice gains somewhere between here, the halving and the end of this red rectangle. That's something to prepare for. Volatility of it all, the fake out of it all. I mean, imagine a 15% swing to the upside in the shorter term, right, over the coming weeks. And then all of a sudden we have to prepare for actually just another low somewhere, right? Maybe even if it's just testing 23 cents, maybe if it's going a little lower, we need to prepare for those things. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if ADA is to make a move to the 20-week moving average, what we want to see is ADA break the 20-week moving average around 30 cents and then the 50-week moving average around 33 cents. Those are those macro indicators we want to see broken. That's the more macro bullish confirmation that we're waiting for. And we've very simply been waiting this entire bear market for that. We've seen rejection time and time again. So that's what I'm watching on ADA right now, but ADA is nowhere near down and out, everybody. And it's funny to use the term against all odds because going into the next cycle, crypto's up against a lot as a whole. I think Cardano is one of the best positioned crypto with less odds against it than many that are out there. I actually think that. And it's a top blue chip crypto with just such solid fundamentals. And it's endured this bear market in a very, very similar fashion, if not better than the last bear market. And it is set up pretty nicely. So let me know your thoughts, everybody, in the comments below. I appreciate you if you're here. Not even going to say hit the like. I'm not even going to say that. Not even going to ask you to hit the like button for me. Not even going to ask you. I'll see you all in the next video. God bless.